Yes, welcome back to another season of SuperCoach with the SuperCoach Hub. Welcome back to everyone who's returning and to all of our new listeners. Thankfully, I have one of the most favorable community members in the Hub to join me tonight for our kickoff episode. Monster Mash, how are we doing? How are you feeling?
I'm stoked. I am so ready to get back into SuperCoach. I've been waiting for this for months now. So I am very, very happy. Obviously, I was the host last year of this, but you've kindly stepped in to take the reins. So I guess how are you feeling taking that role?
Look, it's big shoes to fill, mate. You've done a terrific job. I'll tell you that. I can only be so lucky to follow in your footsteps.
You'll do well. You'll absolutely kill it. We're looking forward to having you as the main host for the Wednesday pod this year. It'd be great.
Thank you, mate. And yes, you did hear right. Consistent Wednesday pods will continue throughout this year. We'll let you know what happens during Origin period, okay? So stay tuned for that. But Monster Mash, you have been generous. You're going to be able to reveal your team for us. Kick it off.
Yes,
First team reveal for the Hub this year.
I am the first cab of the rank, and I'm here to pretty much get roasted by a bunch of people, I think, potentially. We'll see how that goes, though. I'm actually feeling relatively confident with my team at the moment and the structure, which is where I'm really aiming for at the moment. We know that there's a bunch of cheapies that will not eventuate, or as it gets closer to the start of the season, their roles will maybe not look as cemented as they did. So that's how I've really approached things. I want to have it as a loose, I guess, structure at the moment with a few key players plugged in.
Yeah, I mean, we study and we look at all these cheapies we're hoping and praying for come round one, and then Teamless Tuesday hits and we're going, did we even get one of them? So, we do as much as we can, but I guess it's all just a draw of luck come round one. But look, before we jump into your team reveal, I wanted to grab your thoughts on the new flex position that has been implemented into NRL SuperCoach this year. Yep. We saw with the rumors, before it was officially announced, a lot of people were here and there with it. They think it might ruin the game. They thought, it wasn't needed. Since the flex position has come out, I'm wanting to hear, what was your initial thoughts with it, and has it changed since, opening day?
Yeah, so my initial thoughts with the flex is I thought it was a great addition. We've obviously seen over the off season with the BBL SuperCoach that they've got the flex in there, and I thought that really helped the good players do better, in my opinion, because it takes away a little bit of luck that you see some people, they just jag those big scores, and while there is skill in picking those players, I think, it gives a bit more consistency to super coaching, which, let's face it, if anyone's been involved with this over the last few years, it can strike at any point. HIAs, players getting injured. I think it'll just help with that overall. So I was really excited with it from the start. And I think the same as most people, my first thought was third fullback. Like that is the obvious sort of choice with this.
No, I absolutely agree. As soon as I saw the announcement, I went 3 fullbacks. How good?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's just so many ways you can use for flex going forward. You've got cash cows, you've got guns. I mean, I've heard people say I might just nuff early because, you're essentially taking away the bottom score. So it brings in a lot of new strategy, especially for the buy rounds where you only need that 13. So it's going to be a very interesting year. I think it's going to change a lot of people throughout week to week how it's used. And, I'm so glad we're doing your team reveal first, because there's a player in there who I think is the hottest topic of the year. And I cannot wait to hear, your thoughts going forward on it. So I don't want to waste any more time.
It up then.
Yeah, let's get into it. Monster Mash, please talk us through your team.
Yeah, so I'll give a bit of background first, and then I'll dive into it. So the same as I think most people when looking at it, 3-gun fullbacks. That's where I wanted to go. And here we go. Sorry, Mr. Charity has joined us.
Here I am.
We have been graced.
Live in the flesh.
Timed this well. My team has just been revealed. So, sorry. And as I was saying, my first thought, 3-gun fullbacks. That's what I wanted. I had a couple of teams that had that, and I just felt a little bit too skinny across the park. The more I thought about it, the more I didn't like that it was becoming really, really reliant on new players, especially when there's some clouds over things. So, as an example, I think some people that have gone the 3-gun fullbacks, they've probably got to say like a Sandon Smith as their second halfback.
Yep.
And probably with Cleary or something like that. And we know he's coming back from injury. So if he doesn't hit the ground running immediately, then you might be in a bit of trouble there and be forced to make a trade. And just things like that, basically. I felt that it was too much pressure on certain players that you had to nail. So I decided to grab Yongi as sort of the go-to cheapie for fullback, and then use that cash to just patch up some holes and just try to make my team more flexible to begin with. And I think you'll see that from some of the picks that I've made and where I've put them. So where would you like me to start?
Mate, I'd let's go top to bottom. We'll go starting hooker, bench hooker. I love already what I'm seeing from both your hookers already. I love the play. Talk me through why you've gone this strategy.
Yeah, so they said that if you go in the 2 cheapie hookers, I think they're probably the most obvious ones at this point with Mamazelis and Sandon Smith. Smith, I think, is close to a must-have, especially if he gets the goal kick in at the Roosters. Mamazelis, I don't think is going to score 60s or anything like that, but if he can punt out pop out 50s to begin with and start just rolling in that cash, that's what we want. And it's also why I've picked Connor Watson in my second row, so that when that cash is made, I can swing him up.
I love it. Already planning for the future. Look, I agree with Stan Smith, absolutely. I mean, even without the goal kicking at hooker, he's a must-have. But if he gets that goal kicking, he's halfback hooker. Yeah. You've got to have him. He's an absolute must. And Memazilis, he only needs about 45 to 50 minutes a game, to just get those base points. He's got real good points per minute. Charity, just looking at Monster Mash's team here, what are you thinking about their double hookers?
Look, I'm going with the double cheap hooker strategy as well. I look back at last year and go, where did I lose points? Where did I make points? And I lost points in not investing in the right CTWs or 2RFs. Fullbacks, most people played fullback roulette. I was pretty solid with mine. The hookers, I kept on trying to do something fancy there. It just never played up. I'm just going, let's just throw 2 cheap hookers in there that I know that are going to play the best that they can based on what type of player they are and not worry about it. So I don't mind that 2 hooker play. It's just about the rest of the team and some of the decisions we made. I do look at your team; it's very, very different to mine. So it's really, really interesting.
Agreed.
Yeah,
it's nice to see how different it is.
Yeah, I do like a couple of other options in that sort of cheapy hooker range. Depending on what happens at the Eels, like somebody like a Brendan Hands could be a really good pick as well. And I actually don't mind Tom Starling if he ends up getting a big minute role at the Raiders. So if I can stretch the cash in those sort of, look at good picks, I might even try to upgrade Mamazelis, but probably not. I'm pretty set on these 2, and I think that's what most people end up running come round 1, to be honest.
Yeah, it's really no position you need to spend up on at all. I mean, we've seen last year there were times points did come in that position, but I don't think nearly enough to warrant, going after Grant, especially with the buy in the second round. But just spending up in hooker, I don't see the points being there where, when we go through the rest of your squad, we can see how well the points are spent elsewhere. And, we lead into that. I mean, we see your front rows with Terrell Mace straight off bat. I mean,
I think he's a must as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was the first person I put in my team straight away as soon as team picker opened. I mean, Monster Mash, is he just a no-brainer or?
Yeah, 100%. He is going to be the number 1 prop at the Tigers. I think he'll probably get whatever minutes he wants. So if he plays 60, it's a gold mine. He'll be in the top 3 or 4 front row forwards by the end of the season comfortably if he gets those minutes. We've seen with some of the other props that are at the Tigers, they're not going to play big minutes. You've got Clemmer, Royce Hunt. Are they going to be playing more than 35 to 40? I really doubt it. I just don't see who takes the minutes off him. So for me, no brainer.
No, I mean, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, he's the guy they're going to look to gain the meters, lead the pack, make the tackles, need him in the middle. He's going to need to average a lot of minutes, a lot of SuperCoach points for the Tigers to have a chance at the 8th this year. And, signing someone like a Jerome Luai who has a step that creates just a little bit of gap. Yeah. We've seen with May's fitness, he's always pushing up. He's there for a sneaky try, especially with Appy. Charity, please tell me you've got May. You haven't gone Red Rover left field. Please tell me you've kept it simple there.
No, I have got Tyrrell May. However, I don't think he's a 100% sure thing. I think he most likely will do well, but I'm also still a bit concerned around, can the Tigers get the most out of a player? And Tyrrell May playing at the Roosters was running off the back of fast play the balls, a good team, getting the effective offloads for the team always pushing up. Can we get that from the Tigers? I do feel like something is changing at the Tigers. However, we thought that last year. So I don't know how sure we can be. So that is my only concern and why I started this SuperCoach season, not having Tyrrell May in my team. The more podcasts I listened to, the more I went, you know what? He was such a good player to have last year. Let's just do it because that is one of the front row forwards that might actually hurt you if you don't have him in your team.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing that's playing into my thoughts as well. His ownership percentage is huge.
Yeah.
So you would have to be really confident against him to not have him, in my opinion, because I think if he does end up going off, it hurts you too much because too many other people will own him at the start of the season. So that's, I think, something really key about these really high ownership players. You've got to be confident against them if you want to go against them. Yeah,
absolutely. You'd rather, own him with everyone else and he picks up an injury than not owning him and get burnt by the pot. Yeah, exactly. You don't want to be that 1 out of 100 there. Now, front row forward too, Big Red is looking lean. He's looking mean. Apparently, it looks like he's patched things up with Ricky Stewart. Talk us through it.
Yeah, for me, another one that I'm really confident on. At the moment, it's kind of sitting the way it's sitting because of Tino. I'm kind of looking at Tino as my second front row forward and the Horse as a second row, but it's obviously shifting around because of the round 1 bye. But yeah, especially we've seen Emre Gula has been officially released to the Dragons. The minutes are there for the Horse, for Big Red. I think he's in for a big year. We've seen that he can put out the points previously if he gets the minutes. Josh Papali'i's getting on in age. For me, the stars are aligning. I think he's another one that's close to a no-brainer.
No, I mean, I absolutely agree. Whether you're going front row forward or you've gone at 2RF, he should be in your team. The Goulard news was just, it was wonderful to, see on an Arvo going, Big Red's in the team. Big Red skyrockets here. Charity, anything on Big Red?
No. Good. I think it's a great decision. Yeah.
We love Big Red.
Yeah. I love him.
You gotta love him. I'm a Sharks fan and I love him. It feels bad, but you gotta love Big Red. Now, talk us through your bench front row forwards. You've gone cheap there, but they definitely could be a play coming up.
Yeah, so the big thing with, I think, a lot of teams is that they will have Royce Hunt. He seems sort of the go-to cheapie, and I don't know if I agree with that, to be honest. We've seen from him at the Sharks that he's not a big minute front row forward. He's roughly sort of averaged that 30-minute mark quite a fair bit, and he's not really then really skyrocketed with his points. So I don't know how much is there for him. So that's why I've gone a little bit cheaper. 10K doesn't sound like a lot, but it can be at this time of the year. So that's why I've grabbed Amone and Bentakura, who I both think they'll get bench roles at the Broncos and the Bulldogs. Amone's had big raps from Phil Gould. It's the Phil Gould pick, super coach for the preseason.
It's a love child.
And, we've seen with Bentakura, he's huge, he's massive, and he can jag a try. So that's what I want in a bench prop. If I can get somebody that can make a quick 50, 60K from one try over a couple of weeks, that's what I'm after.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen Takura crash over the line. We know he's good for it when he comes on. And I mean, Amon, I don't think you'd travel across the world to not play first grade, big raps on him. Look, he definitely does have competition for a spot there, but you don't travel across the world if you don't think you're going to get it. I think there's big things happening, and he's definitely one to look at starting with.
I just want to obviously just look, if we find out any of these cheapies have different roles, I'm 100% happy to bring them in. These guys aren't locked. Cheapies are cheapies, and they're placeholders more or less.
Exactly. I don't think we've ever have had a lock cheapie, aside from Isaiah only this year. I mean, every cheapie, take with a solid grain if you're listening to this, they're placeholders. Anything could happen round one. So watch your trials, but don't get too attached to them. Now, I absolutely love your second row forwards, Jermaine Hopgood. Wow.
This is where I think the benefits of going only starts to really show. Is I've been able to go a little bit harder in my second row compared to a lot of others. So anybody that's going that 3-gun fullback, I think Tino's, you probably can only go the 1-gun second row, I think, above Tino. Whereas now I can squeeze in a second one. And for me, Connor Watson is, as I said earlier, is that really, I like him as a safety net. So if somehow one of these cheapie hookers doesn't do very good, and we can say, they're only getting 20 minutes, 30 minutes after round 1 or 2, I can swing him up and trade to another cheapie. So that's why I've grabbed him. But Jermaine Hopgood, I think the role is there for him at the Eels. We've seen Regan Campbell-Gillard's left. We're sort of unsure of the minutes of the props and the other middles. I think there's a lot in the air, but knowing Jason Ryle's coming from the Storm system, I think he would absolutely love somebody like a Jermaine Hopgood that he can just go, you know what? I need 60, 65 minutes from you each week. It's just gold. And we've seen that Hopgood has got one of the best ceilings in second row forward out of anyone.
Yeah.
For me, I really, really like it, though. That I'll have to get your opinion on something a bit later on when we discuss another player that might actually see him go out. But that we'll see with that. But I'm pretty high on Jermaine Hopgood.
Yep. I mean, I can't blame you. I mean, to me, he's just a cheap Isaiah Yo. I mean, he's safe with his points, but he'll net you some big points as well.
Yeah.
Para needs a big year. He's going to be someone who needs to leave them in the pack as well.
Yeah.
I think he was only going to be better. No, he is coming back from an injury, so take it with a grain of salt. Watch trials and just keep an eye on Team List Tuesday just in case anything does go wrong. But look, Jermaine Hopgood, I think, is someone I'll own throughout the season 100%. Charity.
Yeah. So I've got a quick question for you both because you've brought up Yo there.
Yes.
How much over the first, say, 5 or 6 rounds? How much do you think Yo averages?
Oh, geez.
75.
Do you think he'll go as high as 75?
I'm a little more 68 to 70.
I have
first
him
couple rounds.
Probably somewhere around that 70 mark. I think Hopgood at worst is 65. And the amount of money that you're saving, that's close to 100,000 between the two. It's for me.
I mean, Hopgood's priced at 65. You're saving a lot of money, but you're getting essentially the same sort of play style with Yo, but probably with a bigger upside as well. We know Yo's not so much an enforcer, but he's a grit and he's a grinder of the Penrith pack. Where Hopgood, he's if you need me to score a try, put me close to the line.
pop an offload and get that try assist potential as well. We've seen that. So, yeah, for me, I love him.
Absolutely. And I love the idea with Watson as well, especially with how many cheap 2RFs we do have, where if something happens in Hawkeye, you can bring in someone for, say, Memzelis' price. That's quite an easy swap throughout the season.
Yeah.
Now, Charity, thoughts on Hopgood, thoughts on Watson?
Yeah, I would love to have Hopgood in my team. I just can't make it work, and I don't know who I would trade to get Hopgood in replacement of them without sacrificing my gun 2RF that I want to keep and I want to start with. But I think, it's great. The Watson in 2RF is something that I played around with that ended up going a different direction. But I could very easily change that before the start of the season. So I like that approach. Just looking at the Kobe Hetherington pick on the bench as well, which I'm sure we'll touch on. That's something that I just tried to play around within my team, and I'm about 20k short of that. So I'm like, damn it, I'm going to have to figure something else out. But really great. And really great point as well on the fact that the people that are going 3-gun fullbacks, if you go for the one cheapie, it then opens you up to these kind of things, which is an extremely great point, which I'm sure we'll touch on more towards the end around what it enables you to do. But I always look at the risk versus reward of, okay, well, if I do that, where am I making the points up, and is that worthwhile in comparison to the other way? So we'll see. We'll see how we go.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
I don't think we need to cover too much about the bench second rows. I think everyone kind of knows roughly what they're at. The one thing I do want to have a quick chat about is I've decided to nuff my sixth second row forward. I'm very much of the opinion that I don't think there's too much underneath Kobe Hetherington price point of that's really good at the moment. Maybe the guy at the Warriors is about the only one I can think of that looks like might be getting a role that I'm happy with. I'm not touching Schuster with a 10-foot pole.
No.
I will throw one at you that's around that sort of cheap price is Geimer from the Eels.
Yeah, we've had news from that come out over the last day or so. So if we get more news about his role going forward, I'll happily look to try to plug him in. But for me, I would rather take that extra 30, 40K from nothing and also giving myself that option to loop better in the early rounds. I think especially with the flex, it really strengthens the VC loophole. So for anyone out there, if you don't know exactly how to do it, do your research before the season starts. But I think the fact that we basically can get 2 cracks at captain a lot easier now, for me, I almost kind of want that enough to be able to do that throughout the year. So I just grabbed basement price, second row forward, front row forward to allow me to do it.
So I've done that, but with like a Miles Martin, but in my front row forward, so that I can swap.
I've grabbed the guy from the Titans simply because Miles Martin plays in Vegas for the Raiders, or the Raiders lock out in Vegas. So I just wanted somebody for that second lot of games. But anyway.
No, I definitely agree here. I think in years prior, I think if we all said, we're taking enough straight into round 1, it's a bit of a, okay, you're playing very, very exciting for this year, but it's a very valid option now with the flex. 2 shots at a captain score.
Yeah, I think 1 is probably the most I would do. I don't want to run a second or a third. I still want to just still think making cash is so important early on. But I think you can get away with 1.
I think 1's what you need, and I think second row, and I think you've done it perfectly with the dual forward. I think you need someone you can put into your front row and second row. I've currently got Owen Paddy in my hooker 2 position, who may or may not be enough come round 1, depending how team lists show up with the news he's been sharing minutes with Levi at training. But, if he does end up being enough, I would probably move him off to a Sandon Smith and then figure out a Lewis Dodds situation, because you want enough to have multiple positions to interchange with. You don't want to rely on it. Now, just before we do move on to your big guns in this team, for anyone who doesn't know about the Kobe Hetherington news, it's looking as if Carrigan is moving into the props with Harrington moving into lock. So, look, it's going to be a very interesting Teamless Tuesday. We'll say that. But if he does show up with a number 13 jersey, I think he's lock. I think you stick him in there. Don't expect, high hopes, but he's someone who will 100% be playable. Now, Monster Mash, I love this. I haven't seen many teams with 2-gun halfbacks.
Yeah.
Please talk me through how it feels owning Cleary and Hines.
For me, they were the first two I picked in my team. Above everyone else, they are, for me, the absolute set and forgets. I don't think... I put it this way, I don't necessarily agree with Sandon Smith as your second halfback. As I said earlier, we've got a little bit of a cloud over Cleary coming back. So I wanted that security of having Cleary and Hines. And my big thought process with Hines in particular is he tailed off after his injury. I think that the whole thing with Trindle has been overblown. We've seen that he's just an accumulator. And I don't think, like, after another preseason where they can work on their partnership, I just don't see him taking a huge step back. For me, I think he'll go back to his absolute best. I think we'll start to see Hines, approaching those 70s and 80s quite comfortably. And I'm here for it. I think he'll score the same as some of the other gun fullbacks. So for me, that's the big difference between Iongi and that third gun fullback. I've got Hines, so I've offset that points wise, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's very valid the way you're looking at it. You've got Hines, who, very well likely, if he's playing the way we know he can play, will average a gun fullback score. But then you've also brought in Iongi, who's going to make you the cash at the same time without having to waste the trade. Look, on the Hines news, I mean, not so much news, but we did see last year the points deteriorate with Trindle. Let's remember this was the first year that we've really seen Fitzy change. We've been asking for him to put him in fullback for Lord knows how long as SuperCoach players, even as Sharks fans. You don't want Hines in fullback. He's going to score pretty much the same amount of points that you are going to see him in this new role. He's going to be a red zone threat with Trindle controlling the traffic and Hines getting that, little fullback pass to Kennedy or that long ball to a winger, which is probably what we'd rather, because what we saw last year was Trindle getting that last pass to a Ronaldo, to a Katoa. So roles have been switched. Hopefully he does continue with goal kicking. I mean, I agree. I think it's been overblown, but I do understand people's, little hesitation there. But with the Ioning pick, it's amazing. Now, Charity, what are you thinking for 2-gun halfbacks?
I think it's a great approach. The question marks I have is around starting with Nathan Cleary. There are a few different reasons as to why I don't want to start with Nathan Cleary. The past couple of seasons I've watched, he has started a little slow, other than the one game that I think he came back at the start of last year or the year before, where he scored like 150 and punched everyone that didn't bring him in. And then the next game, I think he got injured. Typically, I've noticed, and this is just a gut check, I am no random stats guy or stat person, but gut check, Cleary doesn't do too well to start the season. He warms up into the season so that he's fit and firing for the end of the year. And I think the Panthers' draw plus the travel is crazy. I also think they're not playing at Penrith the PointsBet Stadium anymore. They're playing at CommBank, which may benefit, but I just remember Nathan Cleary playing at CommBank when he tried to do the the pile driver on Reed Marnie into the turf at CommBank and got sent off. For me, I'm thinking to start the season, no, I will finish the season with Cleary, but to start the season, it's pretty much a firm no from it. Like, I haven't even considered throwing him into my team. But we all know my SuperCoach prowess is not the greatest, so this might be the sign to jump on.
Captain Cleary.
The big thing for me as well is, when do you get him in?
Yep.
If you don't have Cleary to begin with, you probably would want to have him by, say, round 6, round 7 at the absolute latest. and then you've got him for only a few weeks before Origin. So it's that thing of when if you leave it too long, you then start to think, oh, I just won't own Cleary until later on in the year, and then suddenly you've not had him for half a season. So for me, I think it's that thing of, once again, going back to the captaincies as well. I want those kind of players that I know can pump out those really big scores, and if I've got a few of them in as an option to then loop and things like that, I want to have more cracks at it. And we know that Cleary's got that capability, and I think it's even if he does start slow, I think it's not going to be too long before you'd want him in. And I just don't know, without potentially sacrificing a fullback or one of your other gun players, exactly how you would do that without. It's a tough one. It might turn out that the stars align and everything goes well, but for me, from this far out, I don't really want to be. I want to try to really save a bit more trades this year. So if I can just have him in there to begin with already, then I'm all right.
I have a question that I want to ask anyone in the audience or any stat person that wants to go through this. But there was a stat around how many games the Panthers won when they were missing Cleary versus when they were missing Luai. And when it was Luai in the team without Cleary, the stats were actually really, really good. It was something like 90%, 95% win rate, whereas with Cleary, it was a little bit lower. I would love to see Cleary score without Luai and see how that changes his scoring potential.
Yeah.
And whether there is any impact. I may be wrong here. I would love someone to send that to me.
There we go. SuperCoach Hub, you've got some homework.
There we go.
Absolutely. Please join the Discord and post that so we can all amaze at your research and laugh at Charity when he is wrong. Look, but you do bring up a good point. Without Luai, I am not having Cleary. I haven't even put him in my team once. I am very much on I will get him after the Origin period, purely just because I don't want many Origin players in my team to start with this year. I'm trying to avoid making unnecessary changes. The thing that is terrifying me not seeing a Nathan Cleary in my team is there is no Jerome Luai. This is Nathan Cleary's team solely. He has Dylan Edwards, he has Yo, but he has a young Haas partner, someone he hasn't played with before. I'm scared with how many touches we're going to see Cleary get in big moments.
Yeah, that's
I'm just on that note. My gut feeling, I mean, this is purely a gut feel, is I think Brad Schneider might end up getting the 6th job to begin with.
Okay.
Because he's played with Cleary. He did it last year. So I think that little bit of experience might count for a little bit, at least to begin with, while they ease the other guys in. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's how it goes to begin with. But that is purely a gut thing, I don't have any insight at all.
Well, the good news with the Panthers is that we will get their team list a week ahead of everyone else. So plenty of time to panic, completely clear the team and reset, seeing whatever happens. So, look, I mean, whoever is going to be partnered with Cleary, it is going to be a apprenticeship, we'll say for least. So, look.
Yeah. Now I think we're into some of the spicy picks for my team.
I love this.
Look, I had to do it to begin with. He's at the best price he's been in ages. Cameron Munster. Had to do it. We know that he's been a gunner for past. For me, there's actually not too many 5'8s that I actually like the thought of at the moment. I mean, that could change as we approach the season, but for me, I kind of wanted to take a little bit of a discount compared to somebody like a Dylan Brown, and who I think has the same ceiling. Like we know what Munster can do. If though there's any sign that he's going to be slow or a bit behind come round 1, there is another pairing that I kind of want to go with as well. But for now, Munster's my guy.
No, absolutely. I mean, at that price tag, he is very hard to pass up, knowing that we know what Munster can do. We know the team he's in. He's got great second rows. He can run off. He's got great wingers who it's a simple kick to. I mean, look, for someone who's priced at averaging a 60 and had an injury-plagued year last year, it's a very good discount on someone with a full year under their belt. He could definitely be up there as one of the top highest scoring 5'8s. Definitely not out of ballpark at all. Now I think majority of teams is going to have your backup 5'8".
Yeah.
Is there any particular reason why you've picked him, or more just so it's pretty much stock standards? Luke Metcalf.
Mine, yeah. I'm actually, compared to what a few people I think might be looking at it, I'm going even more basic. I'm pretty certain he'll get the goal kicking at the Warriors.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm almost certain he will, assuming that Tanner Boyd is not picked in the side. I think it'll be Tamari Martin and Luke Metcalf. I think that'll give them the pairing, and then I think he kicks. So if he's goal kicking, he's in my team. If he isn't, I probably will take him out and swing up Adam Dewey if he's goal kicking. So that's the way I'm sort of looking at it for that second slot. Is I want somebody that's goal kicking, that has that base, can make a bit of money, doesn't need to do much to maybe jag that extra 100K. Yeah, I think he's the guy to go with. We've seen that he's got a bit of pedigree. He's only getting better. If he stays on the field, he'll make money. That's my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. If he stays on that field, he's getting money. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if he could be a straight swap with Dylan Brown, come mid-season. I mean, Brown's at that price where I'm sure we all wouldn't be surprised if he lost money. It only takes a couple bad games, couple unlucky games. Metcalf, he's just got a really nice base, especially with his defense. He's always looking to get in for tackles. And if he does end up with that goal kicking, I mean, he's pretty much a lock. Charity, do you have Luke Metcalf in your team?
I have Luke Metcalf. I've played around with swapping him out for Boyd and the cash that frees up, what that allows, which is good. So leaving Metcalf as a placeholder, potentially replacing him for Boyd if Boyd gets the spot and the goal kicking. And then if neither of them get the goal kicking and Mitch Barnett gets the goal kicking, I'll jump over. So pretty much whoever gets the goal kicking for the Warriors is in my team.
I agree with that.
Can you imagine Mitch Barnett, front row forward, 2RF, dual position?
He'd be impossible not to own.
Yeah, 100%.
He'd be impossible not to. I've had him in my team at front row forward. I've had him in my team at second row forward. I don't have him now, but if that goal kicking comes into play,
Corey Parker of old.
Oh, mate.
Now, one thing I do want to cover a little bit at 5'8" is I think this is the position where if you were to have a throw at the stumps, I think this is the position to do it.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I don't think there's going to be a huge difference between everyone, or at least I don't think there will be, but we see it every year that there's one guy that kind of stands out above the rest early days. So the other player that I actually I'm tempted by is Matt Burton.
Okay.
The Dogs have a good run early on. He's the goal kicker. I think he could do worse. And no, this is not going to be Mr. Charity's favorite player, Luke Brooks. No.
We will get there if we're desperate.
I convinced you all.
To be fair though, I don't hate it if you're going to go cheap in the position. I think if you're going to go like sort of two players down around that price, I actually don't mind Luke Brooks as a shout in that instance. But for me, I've got that. If you're running 3-gun fullbacks, I don't hate it. If you go like a Luke Brooks and a Metcalf pairing, I don't hate it if you're needing it to spread the cash, because we've seen that have a go at someone that's got a good draw, which is why, as I said, I like Burton. The Dogs have a good draw for about the first 7 or 8 rounds. He could be scoring 20, 30 points in goal kicking alone.
No, absolutely.
If they start hot.
I've got a real smoky 5'8" to throw out here. Ben Hunt.
No, don't like it.
I like it. I really like it.
No,
I don't like it, but there's a reason for that, and that's later in my team.
When we do the charity team reveal, I don't think we'll have time tonight, but when we do, if Ben Hunt is in that team, we will be having a word after the show. Okay, but just quickly before we do move on to Monster Mash's wingers and centers, Dennis does bring up a good question here. Thoughts on Luai at 5'8"? Now, like you said, Monster Mash, it's a thrower for stumps 5'8" this year. I think it's I 100% agree with you. It's the position where you can go with a pod. You can take a risk. Luai is definitely not a cheap option at 5'8", but we've seen where you can do a halfback. Yes, he is going to a team that does not have the same access to talent of players, but that could also favor Luai in the sense of he's going to have his hand on the ball every 2 to 3 tackles.
Exactly.
So I do have Luai in my team currently, him and Metcalf. I think it's a nice little pod play, and if it doesn't work out, it's a simple trade down.
See,
Monster Mash, you don't mind?
I like the pick, but I actually disagree. I don't think that's a pod pick. I think that will probably be the highest pairing come start of the season. I think that'll be the main 2 guys picked. But I actually like Luai for the exact reasons that you have outlined. You get his hand on the ball more. We saw it when he was like the guy to replace Cleary before he broke into that Panthers side. He became the main half, and he showed he could do a few things there. So I think that's the kind of Luai we'll probably get. So yeah, and look, he's only 20K cheaper than like Cam Munster. So yeah.
I mean, right now, take this with a grain of salt. We do know that the own percentage can be a bit wacky before the season starts, but currently sitting at 26% owned. So, he's just in the middle. He's not highly owned. He's not very little owned. He's just in the middle. Charity, are you a Luke Brooks fanboy that you won't think of anyone else, or could Luai be a solid option?
Yeah, I just think any Tigers 5'8" or previous Tigers 5'8" is a good pick. Look, I it's not for me. I'm not going to pick Luai. I won't be surprised if he does well, though. So
no, absolutely fair enough. Absolutely. Now, Monster Mash,
right.
I can see here you don't have a Jacob Kiraz, but you do have
not.
a Ruben Garrick.
Yes, I do. And there's one other bit that one other big owned player that I've decided to forego at the moment until we get more news, and that is obviously Campbell Graham. So, look, Kiraz I think is a really, really good pick, but with the way that I'm stretching my budget, I can't fit in 2 guys that are above 600K. And I think out of everyone that's going to have the best start, I'm backing Manly at Brookie. I don't think you can go much wrong with that. I think a lot of the other players make a lot of sense as well. Like the cheapies, it's going to be who gets picked. Munro has had good stats when he gets the starting spot, and it looks like he'll get one of those wing spots at the Rabbitohs. I really like Howarth. He's shown that he can get to about 50 points. So, yeah, it's for me. And then Dewey, if he gets the goal kick and he's in. If not, I'll probably look at moving him down. But that being said, he did average well when he came back to the Tigers last year. So
absolutely,
that's the way I'm sort of looking at it at the moment. But this is probably the area that I think is most subject to change for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, as team lists and as trials come about, we'll either get more cheapies we can take a look at, or we will have less. So, I mean, I think if Dewey gets goal kicking, I don't see how I can't start with him. I mean, he looked good last year when he came back. He looked confident. There was a nice little intercept he got where it didn't look like he had a problem. But I really do love the Munro pick. I think with Wayne Bennett back, and we've seen the way that Trelmet looks, I cannot wait to see Munro just snag a wing and go ham.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be a very special year for him.
Yeah, you've mentioned Latrell there, and that's part of why I've picked him as well, is that I've obviously, as you can see here, have not got Latrell.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at players that I can also try to offset the points in a way. Like I think if Latrell's getting try assists, there's a good chance if Munro's the winger, he's the one scoring the tries. So that's the way I'm also trying to look at a few of these things. Like if you think that Tommy Turbo's going to do really well and Manly's going to do well, Garrick's probably the guy kicking goals if that's the case. I mean, and if you need any more convincing on Garrick, have a look at his average at Brookie. It's very, very good. So yeah.
No, I mean, absolutely. I think for anyone new here who's playing SuperCoach for the first time, something important to look at is double stacking. And double stacking is essentially, like Monster Mash just said, so Ruben Garrick is the goal kicker for Manly 9 out of 10 times unless he's injured. All right, he is always going to kick goals, and Tommy Turbo is always going to score points. So having them together, you're essentially, doubling your points, because, if Turbo's having a good game, it's a very rare chance Garrick doesn't have a good game. I can't remember. I think maybe one game last year, Garrick missed majority of his goals and didn't see the ball. And then, he comes out and he'll score 100 the next week with Turbo scoring 130. So look at players who are going to benefit each other. And like Monster Mash said, he doesn't have Latrell here. So he's trying to piggyback off Trell's points with a Tyrone Munro. If Trell gets 2 try assists, hopefully Munro has 2 tries to its name. So you want to benefit as much as you can. Now, Charity, looking at the wings and centers here, have you gone very far away from Monster Mash, or are you thinking a little similar with the sort of base and price there?
No, I look back at how I didn't do too bad in that first round in terms of my players not scoring well, avoiding a lot of the carnage that came with it. And I still was like, why did I not score high in comparison to everyone else? And CTW is where I fell short, which is why I'm looking at this team and going, it is a bit light. We've got a lot of mid-rangers. We've got the one good Garrick's scorer there, and the rest is like mid-range to cheapies. So I can potentially see this as an opportunity for you to be hurt early. However, I'm not far off this, so I can't be too critical. I have Marju instead of Dewey, and then the rest of the team is fairly similar. I am trying to move things around so that I at least have 1 to 2 good CTWs, 1 mid-ranger, and then the rest cheapies. But I can't make it work without getting rid of something that I don't want to.
And that's where I'm at as well. Like, if I'm able to free up cash somewhere, this is where the funds will go. And to look at pushing up one of these mid-ranges up to somebody like a Marju, or even better, like a Karaz, if I can get that much. But we'll see what happens as we get closer to the season. And I guess leading into what you guys sort of like started to cover a little bit before, I've probably gone a little bit spicier than most in my fullbacks.
Very saucy.
So I know a lot of people that have gone Iongi have probably got a mix of either Turbo and Ponga or Turbo and Latrell, but I've decided to go for Reece Walsh.
Yes.
So I love the Broncos draw early on. I think based on the teams that I think will do well and the teams that I don't think will do well, I think that he's got the opportunity. He could be scoring and averaging 80 over the first 7 or 8 weeks. And if that's the case, he goes up a little bit in money. And then I can try to maybe then chase the draw a little bit as we go into the buys. I might grab somebody like a Drinkwater that's obviously probably not going to play Origin. And that's the way I'm sort of looking at it. I think he's a little bit of value compared to the others who I don't think will make money necessarily, whereas I think Reece might make a little bit.
No, I mean, absolutely. It's sacrificing that maybe 10 points for, that maybe 20 to 30K for Walsh is going to get. That's once he's off to Queensland camp, it's a Scotty Drinkwater straight in for him. I mean, and that's the thing, though, there may be a game that Troll has a bit of a dumb decision and gets suspended, or, just something does go wrong. Walsh is that pod there who he's a stressful watch if anyone has owned him before. But that last 15 minutes of a game is really when we go, all right, it's time for us to make our money. How many points can he put on?
Yeah. And you were talking about Ben Hunt earlier, Mr. Charity. I don't think I think the Broncos will become a little bit like the Knights. I think everything is going to go through Walsh.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's going to be the key to them doing well. So if the Broncos do well, it's because Walsh is doing well. And he's one of those guys that even if he doesn't necessarily look like he's done well, he somehow it's like, oh, he's on 70 SuperCoach points. He's on 75 SuperCoach points, and you don't quite know how he's gotten there. So while I agree, yes, I think it will be a stressful watch, hopefully by the end of the game, it's not going to make much of a difference.
No, I mean, I think that's something. I remember growing up watching James Maloney, and one of his greatest actions was goldfish memory. The amount of times he would throw an interception in a Sharks jersey, and then the next play do the exact same pass, and we get a try from it. That is what I think of when I look at Walsh. A kid with nothing but confidence. And I mean, if he throws an interception, it's -2, -4 off the top of my head for that negative play.
Yeah.
That connects for a try. You're 12 points, line back. It's worth the upside with Reece Walsh. Charity?
Yeah, totally agree.
Would you be brave enough to sit through an 80-minute game with Walsh to start the season?
Not myself, no. Yeah, I don't think I can do it to myself. I've got no more to say on that. I think it's just Reece Walsh, great player to watch, but not a great player to own in my opinion. I think I've done it once, or I was watching it as a friend who was owning it, and just feeling very sorry for them until that last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, just on that note, have a look at his scores from last year. He's a lot more consistent than it appears, and
no, he absolutely is.
He's also 130k cheaper than Latrell. 130. So that is the difference between, that may possibly that second rower, that second gun winger, and I think he's at worst 5 to 10 points worse off averaging compared to the others.
No, and as much crap as we do give Monster Mash right now for it being a stressful watch, he's right. I mean, if you look at Walsh's score from last year, very little amounts went under 50 points. One injury game, and then 2 games where I'm pretty sure there just wasn't much going on. He could do anything, and everything else, there's been a base there for him to actually have the points where, it's probably not as high as you would want, but it's not something you're going to go, great, Walsh has killed me this week. So it's absolutely a great pick, and it's a really nice play to move away from, what majority of the players are going for. Now, Tommy Turbo, I mean, like you said, that Brookvale draw star. Yeah, get Travojevic in your teams. I've been talked into it. I would not have him I will just not mess around. He's staying in my team. But with Iongi, so this team looks amazing because of Iongi being there. Now, so I'm going to live vicariously through you because I am not brave enough, just because my anxiety would say he's copping a head knock first minute of round 1.
Oh, that can happen to anyone.
It absolutely can happen to anyone. So just going off, is it just for price tag? We know what the kid can do.
100%.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate a couple of years ago that I jumped on fullback at the Tigers. I'm spacing on the name. Buller. Yes. Basically when he was at bottom price, and the money was great. Look, if Iongi averages in the 40s to 50s that we assume by being a fullback, he'll make a bucket load of cash, probably more than anyone else. Yeah. So my thought process is that he can make that money, and then that will benefit me in the long run. So while I might be down 30 and 40 points now, I'll make it up at the end when I've got more money and can bring in better players than everyone else.
Exactly. And that's really the goal when we do think long-term for everyone. It's how fast can I get to a full premium team, or as close to it as I can. And I mean, like Monster Mash said, yes, you can wait on Iongi for a couple rounds, check how things go. But if you have Trail, Turbo, KP firing, are you going to have the guts to then trade one of them down for the cash? And just on top of that, you then need to upgrade each member of your team slowly while Monster Mash is here. He's got the majority of his team sorted. There will be upgrades, but his halfbacks are done. His 5/8s, you could almost, depending how Metcalf and Munster go, you could pretty much say they're done. I mean, it's pretty much a well-rounded team, almost ready to get upgrade to completion. So that's that's the main thing. Yeah, exactly. And you're not wasting that trade in round 3, where if we're fortunate and we get, new center wingers that are cheap and that got job security for Lord knows why, those are 2 people you can bring in on top of Iongi. and you'll just be laughing in with cash.
Yeah.
I mean, Charity, thoughts?
Yeah. Before we wrap up, I do just want to say on that point, it's not a perfect strategy, but my thoughts behind it is if he does go like Iongi does, whack out those 50s, and he's going to come in for a lot of extra cash. I've got Trell, Turbo, and Tonga, who are all very susceptible to injuries. So at any point, I can swap out and drop back down. But Ponga has a bye round 4. So that round 3 option, I can then go, you know what? I can now trade down to Iongi. Granted, you are wasting a trade, but then you can get that extra cash versus the alternative of having Iongi, who maybe scores 20 to 50, maybe scores 80, who knows what he gets. But let's just say around that sort of 50, 40 mark in comparison to the points that I'm going to get from having the 3-gun fullbacks, where I still have the option to drop down to Iongi, versus if I have Iongi and I want to get 3 firing fullbacks in, I then have to get rid of a Cleary, Hines, or someone else to trade up. So I'm looking at it as a risk management approach versus the let's go for this reward of getting all of that extra cash in. So it's something to be mindful of, and as SuperCoach players, you just need to be mindful of what's that level of risk that you're willing to tolerate and go for that approach.
Yeah. So as I said, as we're wrapping up, I just want to say as well, because I've got to dash off in a second. If I will probably outline a little bit more of my thoughts on a few things in the hub. If anyone's interested, or they can message me about stuff, happy to listen to it. But anyway, guys, look, I actually have to leave, so adios.
Master Mash, thank you for
you
joining
all
us
on the hub
tonight.
very, very soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time tonight, sir.
No worries. See you guys.
See you, Monster.
Now, Charity, just before we do wrap up, because we are closing in on our hour, and I thank you all for being here, I did ask Monster Mash at the start of the episode what was his thoughts when Flex was just announced, and what's his thoughts now. So has your thoughts changed since the first time it was announced?
Honestly, no. I sort of looked at it and I went, oh, this is interesting. And then when I'm going to get 3-gun fullbacks in, I don't think there is other ways to play it, obviously. But I just, you look at who the top scoring players were, it's fullback, it needs to be there. So for me, it's a no-brainer. Lock and load, get it in, and then use it throughout the season. I think where Flex is going to make a real difference is throughout the season how people use it. Particularly if for some reason fullbacks aren't scoring, then what's the next position that people go to? Is it halfback? Is it maybe getting in some extra 2RFs or CTWs that are scoring well? So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, but I think my predictive model in my brain is going 3-gun fullbacks for most of the season.
Yeah, I think a majority of us is with you that the 3-gun fullbacks is the way. Now, Charity, thank you for being with us tonight. Thank you to everyone who has joined in for our first episode back. We're back. We're in full force. We've got amazing members from the hub joining us throughout the next couple of weeks with some team reveals. Don't forget, we have trials coming up, so we will be going in depth regarding the team lists and who to keep an eye on with the cheapies, roles, injuries, and just all to do with rugby league. Charity, I don't know about you, but it is good to have SuperCoach and rugby league almost back.
Yes.
Absolutely cannot wait.
It is so good. Now, before we jump off and say goodbye, there are a few things from the hub side of things that I do want to talk about and get across to everyone that is watching. So for those who are watching that aren't a part of the hub, it is a Discord community that enables a bunch of us to jump in, talk about our teams, get trade advice, see how everything's going, give you automatic updates on when players are ruled out, when team lists drop, sharing content, all of those kind of things. There are so many amazing things a part of it. We have a seeded league that we're keen for people to be a part of so that you get to be a part of the group. We have an overall league. There are so many amazing things that are going on that we've been running for the past couple of years, which are amazing. But there is one new thing that we have this year, which is super exciting. We have subscription packages for some of the top creators within the hub. So those of you that have been a part of the hub know about Rugby League Realm and Myth. They are two absolute guns that constantly perform in the top 1,000 every year in SuperCoach. They've merged together to put both of their ginormous SuperCoach brains to start creating content for you. So they're going to be sharing some free content throughout the hub, but they also have that subscription service, which is $8 a month, that enables you to have a direct line to ask them questions and get feedback from all of those people in the top league. I, unfortunately, am not going to be a part of that because I'm not even at the level of SuperCoach where I can even benefit from their advice, because they take people who are good SuperCoaches and pull them up into the top ranks. I'm not even in the good SuperCoach level. So that's where you're probably best sorted with like a SuperCoach supporter hub. The NRL All-Stars is another subscription package that we have. Barnesy is a great dude and offers a lot of really, really cool insights. Their podcast is amazing. So I definitely recommend checking out both of them. The subscription packages are pinned in one of the channels. I'll have to recall which one it is, but there are some really, really awesome things that are available. So 100% recommend you checking them out. If you have any questions, hit me up in the Discord or message me on YouTube if you can do that. I'm commenting on this thing, so see you there. But that's all I have to say.
Awesome. No, and as well as that, we also do have plenty of channels for your FPL, your just different sports that are interesting to you. It's a great community. We do have AFL, we do have the BBL. BBL was popping throughout the season. It was great to go in there and complain about Glenn Maxwell early exit. So make sure you jump into the hub, make sure you ask the questions, and don't forget we do a team review Thursdays with Mr. Charity. That's still happening, correct?
Yeah, I've just got to find the time in my days.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right, so everyone, join the hub. Ask as many questions as you can. Realm is always very freaky as well in our main chat. If you were in the hub, you would see him and Myth talking about some options today and having a very good debate about it. So please join the hub. Have a good night. Thank you all for joining us on our debut episode for this year. Mr. Charity, thank you. Monster Mash, thank you so much. Have a good night, and we'll see you for a big season.
Yeah.
You'll never know if you don't go.